Welcome to A Biblical Understanding of American Politics. I'm Twana, and this is the channel where we spend time talking about politics through the eye of a biblical understanding. And so today I want to talk to you about 4 different topics, and those 4 different topics are going to come up differently. But the first one I want to focus on is the concept of joy, because one of the things that God always tells us is, number 1, joy comes in the morning. So no matter what you're going through, in the morning, you should always begin your day with joy. Not all of us do that because not all of us believe that joy comes in the morning. So let me bring up a video for you and then we'll start from there.
Things I once cried about are now laughable. Well, Harris can certainly laugh. Today, she even parried these efforts to try to corner or diminish her own joyous personality traits. Again, in response to this Q&A, she discussed how joy can, of course, coexist with serious pursuits.
Why is joy important to you to insert into this election? And what do you make of Republicans using that as a way to suggest that you're not a serious candidate?
Well, sometimes I think, and I'll say to whoever the young people are who are watching this, there are some times when your adversaries will try and turn your strength into a weakness. Don't you let them. Don't you let them. I find joy in the American people. I find joy in the ambition of the people. I find joy in the dreams of the people. I find joy in building community. And I think we should all find joy and have a sense of optimism about who we are as Americans and what we mean to each other and what we can do to lift each other up.
I want you to understand something about the fruit of joy. When people demonstrate joy, there are certain things that you can guarantee that they have going on inside of them. Because the thing I want you to understand is that all of this begins inside of each one of us individually. And while we'll talk about that a little further down the road, here's the first thing I want you to see. Number 1, Kamala Harris sees herself as successful. Successful people do not waste their time. Truly successful people do not waste their time talking badly about other people. There's no reason for it. It's not going to get you closer to any goal or dream that you have. As a matter of fact, taking that road where you really go after people is one that costs you opportunities. It's not one that helps you get where you want to go. Number 2, she's proud of her accomplishments. Kamala Harris has spent year after year after year working to build something that she can be proud of, a career that would make her walk into a room with her head held high, knowing that she did what she felt was the right thing. These are things that bring people joy because she's not out here doing anybody any harm. She's out here working to try and make life better for the people. She has confidence. Because of the accomplishments that she has, because of the altar that she can build to the things that she's done in her career, she walks around with her head held high. She doesn't waste her time sitting back thinking, oh, I'm not enough, I'm not. And you know what's funny is that most of us would not outwardly say that, but our actions demonstrate when we believe that way. And we can see in everything that Kamala Harris does that that is not how she believes. And so because of that, what you see is a woman who enjoys being on the stage, a woman who is willing to engage in debate, who's willing to walk in different areas to make sure that the country stays successful. She's not after personal gain for herself. She's not focused on personal gain. She is focused on how can I help the people that I live in this country with? How can I further democracy? And we need to remember that as a democratic republic, this is who we are as a country. Now, let's contrast that to some of the other things we've seen. People without joy always walk around angry. They have to shout out obscenities because it's all they know. They are hateful toward other people. As a matter of fact, let's show you a video of exactly how hateful the contrasting side is.
They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats.
Really? They're eating the dogs? You see, that type of rhetoric riles up people. And it doesn't rile up people because it's the truth. It riles up people because they use it as an excuse. You see, when people are guided and driven by emotion, logic and reason go out the window. They don't think. And as a result of that not thinking, they begin to react to situations. I would like to remind you that in the first 4 years that Donald Trump was in office, everything we experienced day in and day out was all emotional. Over and over and over again, day in and day out. People were being shot unnecessarily by cops. They were being killed left and right by these police officers. This was a nightmare 4-year candidacy. He said to people that he liked and that he respected, oh no, I always wanted to downplay the COVID pandemic because I didn't want people to panic. So we all got caught in our houses and offices for almost 3 months to a year, depending on your location, because you wanted to hide information. How about the increase in people who injected Lysol and bleach and UV lights into their body because the president said that was the way to cure COVID? Well, it was definitely a way to make sure that you were never a taxpayer again. You see, it's emotion. When you get people living in fear, they don't think logically and reasonably. They think in chaos and misunderstanding. And that's one of the biggest problems we have. In contrast, when you remove joy, there's only one thing you can have left, and that's fear. Let's move to the next topic. They become gossips. That means they have to talk about you. They have to say nasty things. That's why you constantly hear this side going after Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. Oh, the Biden crime family. They know doggone well Joe Biden is not a criminal. That man has been in politics for 50 years. Trust and believe if he were the criminal that Donald Trump would try to have you believe that he is, he would have already been gone. Think about George Santos and a number of other politicians who've gone down over the years for the illegal activities that they actually committed. Donald Trump would be one of them. Finally, they lack confidence. Is there any reason that a previously sitting president would be on a stage gyrating around like there is something wrong with him if he was truly confident in his ability to lead this great nation? You have to understand something. America is a world power. We help all countries and we police all countries. Having someone in office who gyrates around on a stage is really bad, not only for our image, but for understanding what we stand for as a country. So, on that note, let's move to our next video.
Finally, you have fascism. Fascism is basically a totalitarian government, or a government that rules every part of society, from schools and businesses to the media and the arts, where the leader, who is usually a charismatic populist, has full top-down control and answers to no one. Fascists build their society around extreme nationalism and fear of outside threats. Fascist leaders believe their will to be the will of the people. They look to national myths for guidance. They shun science and reason and intellectualism. And fascists are very committed to the idea that its nation's chosen people are superior to all others. And they typically strengthen and unify that dominant group by persecuting minority groups. Does any of that sound familiar? Here's the thing. Understand this name calling is a distraction. A look over there, Joseph Goebbels accused the other side of that which you are guilty shell game. The thought being, if I use every word in the book, words won't matter. And the one definition we should actually be paying attention to, we're gonna miss. So don't be deceived. We are in no danger of socialism or Marxism or communism. But fascism, that's a real possibility. It's just not Kamala Harris who will be bringing it to us.
At this point in the election process, if you are a person who still supports Donald Trump and the conservatives, here's what you may want to consider. Here's what you might want to know about yourself. Number one, you have a disdain for democracy, which means you haven't traveled the world enough to experience other lifestyles and other ways that people live, things that they have to endure and they overcome, so that you have developed an appreciation for that which you have. That says a lot about your drive and lack of ambition. Next, you have a hate for your fellow man. You see, you can't sit back and profess the Bible and not love your brother whom you can see and love God whom you can't see. God's very clear about that. So, finally, you really don't like the gift that America brings. You know, while there are a number of people who talk about all the opportunities and this, that, and the other, listen, opportunities don't come without greedy people. Climbing out of the pit hole of poverty, of struggle, of hardship isn't going to come without a problem. A friend and I always used to talk about this. It's the poor tax. You got to pay that poor tax before you can cross into the land of opportunity, the land of milk and honey. When you're paying that poor tax, it's not fun. But that poor tax is not designed to destroy you. It's designed to strengthen you. Because if you're truly walking with the Father, nothing has the ability to destroy you. All things are possible through Christ who strengthens us. So you always can overcome the negativity that you have to face. You just have to have the desire to do so. And when you don't have that desire, well, that's on you. But if at this point, Trump and the conservatives are holding your ear, that's because there's a bigger problem inside of you. And it begins with how much you first hate yourself. Because you can't possibly have love for yourself and look at the things that this man does and possibly support him. It would burn against everything you believe. While he is a fascist and doing fascist preachings, more than anything, he is a man who does not on any level walk with the Father. So the question you now have to look at is, do you really walk with the Father when you support that which he does not? Let's move on to number 3.
Of the United States, Donald J. Trump, and offer him our enthusiastic endorsement. During his time in the White House, we had a partner and a leader. Today, Mr. President, we stand with you. We stand with you and we have your back, and we're committed to work tirelessly for your election.
Okay. This is a controversial topic. The police. The Fraternal Order of Police, you know, is a union. And have you listened to Donald Trump or read Project 2025 or listened to the audiobook that we put together for you? They don't like unions. And so here's the problem. We first have to understand the origins of the police department. The police department did not begin as a way to serve the community. Oh no, it began as the group called the Marshals. And the Marshals were charged with finding runaway slaves and returning them back to their masters. That's what they were started for. Well, if you understand that the history of the police department is rooted in hatred, then the thing that you also understand is that it's not a surprise that they act in ways that are hateful. While all police are not bad, the Fraternal Order of Police said a mouthful in what they said. Remember what we just said about those who are still at this point servants of Trump. You see, they got away with a lot back then. But Trump hadn't put all his cronies in place. The conservatives hadn't put all their cronies in place by that point. And the thing that we need to look at is that today, a lot of that has changed. And those necessary to ensure that there is never any peace for all people now are right where they need to be. The people who would have stood are now afraid because the people who protected them above them are no longer there. That's a dangerous country. And again, I want to remind you that while most of the world will make this about color, I want you to remember that it first begins with people who look like me, people who are Latino in origin, and then it moves to poor white people. So all those Klan members who cowardly walk around with white pointy cloths on their heads, they will get theirs as well. Because at the end of the day, they're nothing more than worker bees. They don't have respect for them. People who come up with this thought process, this mindset, don't do so because they have a love for country. They have a love first for power and money. And anybody who will get them to that power and money is someone that they will utilize to get where they want to go until they arrive at that location. Before Donald Trump left the White House, he could have removed or pardoned Enrique, what's his name? The leader of the Proud Boys, all the Proud Boys, all the Jan Sixers. He could have gotten rid of he could have pardoned all of them, but he didn't. They had done the job. He wasn't interested in them anymore. And he left them in prison. And today that's where they still sit. And now he can utilize them to talk about how they're hostages. But I promise you, if any of them gave any thought to what's been happening, what they realize is that Trump is not for them, and he never was. But he certainly used them to reach a point. And that's what fascists will do. So, let's move on to our final point.
We had that horrible, horrible result that we'll never let happen again. The election result, we're never going to let that happen again.
The election wasn't stolen. It was not stolen. And I will never forget that a 20-year plus friend of mine was on the phone with me after that election. And she went off about how the election was stolen and how the Democrats, and she became this paranoid woman. And in the end, we have not spoken in years because I don't have it to have conversation with those people. And let me explain why. It's easy when what we want doesn't happen to blame somebody else. It takes a whole different type of person, a type of person who can experience joy, to be able to take accountability for decisions that you ask. And while on the political stage, you will not find many who will take accountability for the decisions that they make, one of the things that you can understand is that in democracy, you still have a freedom to choose. And while those of us who are everyday people must take accountability for our actions, sometimes we give leeway to the people who represent us. The reason that we all have to vote blue down the ballot isn't because we have an undying love for Democrats. It's because we have an undying love for democracy. We are loyal to our Constitution, and we're loyal to the country that we live in. If you're not loyal to this country, vote whatever way you want to, but understand what that says about you. If you genuinely love America, then you understand that somebody coming in and making themselves a king is not who America was designed to be, what America is designed to be, or who we are as a nation and a country. We are fighters. We're warriors. All of us, Latinos, Blacks, Asians, Indians, Middle Eastern, Pakistani, Iranian, white. We are all warriors, and we know how to fight for what is ours, for a country that is ours. As imperfect and fallible as it may be, it takes all of us to stand, and all of us to understand that this isn't just about a man's desire to stay out of prison. It's about a country that you came to for a very specific reason. For those of you who immigrated over here, you came because you wanted to get away from something and you wanted to build a life. Would you see destroyed the same system that enabled you to build that life? For those who look like me, don't forget, while we were at one time, or our ancestors at one time may have been slaves to this country, it was through the system of democracy that we have been able to fight our way into success. We can own homes now. We can do all of these things. And I want to also remind everybody that the Dred Scott case has never been settled. And as it stands, if conservatives take power, The same way they tried to utilize Dred Scott against Kamala Harris will be the same thing that they try to utilize to prove that Black people don't belong in this country. To not vote blue down the ballot is to ensure that it is impossible for you to maintain what you have already owned in this country. I'll see you next week.